Hi, I hope you all are doing well. First of all, I apologize. It's a little hard to read here. But I'm going to go over how the online marketing can actually benefit our society. So, this was actually a TED Talk by Amane. And Amane is a BCG partner for the Technology Advantage. And while he has held this job, he had to go to Singapore for a little while. And while he was in Singapore, he ended up co-founding and ended up leading the BCG's Digital Transformation Center in Asia while he was in Singapore. And we're actually going to continue his Singapore trip in a little bit. But Amane is someone who spent the time looking at how technology impacts our lives. Whether it's just social or marketing or just whatever little bit there is. He spent the time and looked at it. And while he was in Singapore, he ended up realizing some of these little bits, and it made him do a deep dive into it. So when he and his wife went to Singapore, his wife immediately noticed that Uber was actually taking over the taxi driving world. And she said this was one of the worst things possible. They were taking away jobs from all the taxi drivers. But he was like, no, this is great. And he's like, this is creating more jobs for people. That's cheaper. It's more on their own time. But then after spending a little bit of time there, he started to realize what she was saying and how it actually was impacting. So I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with Uber. It's an app we can have on our phone, and basically we can request a ride and it comes to our house. We can pay it on our phone. While taxis are more limited to bigger cities, we don't really see them in smaller cities. It's mostly just only marketed on taxis and Uber's online, and that's the biggest difference on how one's beating the other. It's their marketing strategies. Uber only has apps online, while taxis, their only source of this is if you Google taxis near me, or if you happen to see one driving and has the number on the side of the car. That's how we see that. But Uber taking over, that kind of started to play some fear into the taxi drivers' hearts. So, the one thing Uber doesn't have to deal with is paying a taxi license fee, which can be approximately $200,000. While taxi drivers are seeing that value go down. And it's not a small price. That's a large amount of money, $200,000. And even in New York City, that dropped almost 30% just because Uber was taking over. Well, besides that, Amane brought up two other apps that are from Africa and Asia. And he deep dived into how they're actually helping our community. So we're gonna go over those two apps. And the first one is Gojek. Gojek is kind of like the Asian Uber, except it's with motorbikes, and it's approximately worth $9.3 billion. Now, they originally started out as an app where you can check the local transportation schedule to go take a bus somewhere, and then once you get to the bus stop, you can then order a taxi or a motorbike to go to your actual destination without leaving the app. So it just made it very convenient for the customers. And then after they established that platform, they expanded. So not only Gojek can deal with rides, you can order food from a restaurant, you can go order medication, you can order food from a grocery store. It just made everything so simple. So it's like all these different apps we have in America combined into one. You never have to leave the app. It just made everything so simple. And it's also why it is almost 3 times as much as Uber, since Uber is worth approximately $3.5 billion. So it just made it 3 times more than Uber, just because they expanded. And for all the people who they have them, they're employees, especially the taxi drivers and the motorbike riders. They don't have to be part of that whole thing. They were regular taxi drivers. They didn't have to do that. They decided to sign up, and then they realized they were getting more people rides. They were earning more money. And that's how and why Gojek made that money. Because it was even surveyed that 9 out of 10 consumers. 90% of its consumers felt like they're positively impacting the community because they're giving the people who were apps are taking away their jobs, they were giving them back. And that's what we needed. That's what they all wanted. And it's back. And they just kept making it more and more convenient for the consumers, for thanking them, for having them use their app, helping the community, and said, hey, we're going to expand it and make it easier for you to live. So we're going to move on from Gojek and we're going to go to Jumia. So Jumia is kind of like Africa's Amazon in a way. It's based in Nigeria. So Gojek is worth approximately $234 million. Even though our Amazon is worth billions of dollars at this point, it's how Jumia decided to give back to their country is how they're worth so much less than Amazon. And it's because they started Jumia University. Jumia University is an online university for entrepreneurs, sales leads, all these different business structures. So you might be thinking, why is Jumia trying to help out the smaller competition? It's because the world doesn't go around. It's money that makes the world go round. So Jumia thought instead of just defeating their competition like how Amazon is here, they're deciding to help it grow. And not only that, it's been predicted that Jumia can create approximately 3 million jobs by 2025. So not only are they making money and giving back, they're creating more jobs, which is a win-win in that situation. So those are just some things that these companies decide to give back. And just because a company does well, doesn't mean we need to hoard all that money. Just because the company decided to hoard the money doesn't mean they're the best companies around. So with Jumia and Gojek, they did a great job. They're the great example for it. Sadly, these are apps that are not exactly in our language. I know Gojek isn't all in Indonesian, Jumia might be a little bit different, but these are apps that did take a huge risk, and it obviously paid off. So now think about it. What if Amazon did that? What if Amazon decided to give back a huge chunk of their money to their consumers? Possibly the amount of money they make might go up, just because people are like, wait, I'm also helping a college. And that just shows Amane's whole presentation, that it pays to reconsider. And he actually ended up ending his presentation with a quote. And it's, it pays to reconsider your goal and priorities in the light of a much bigger equation that includes you and your users, but also includes your regulators, policymakers, and consumers. He basically made a whole point on just how to include everyone. And for those apps, it obviously paid off, especially for Gojek, since its American equivalent is like worth 3 times less. It shows if you just took that little bit of interest and back to the customer, it makes it easier. Because what are we drawn to? We're drawn to a sale. Why do you think no one in New Jersey uses Uber a lot? Because it's actually more expensive. Back in California, and I know in New York, since it's a higher demand, it's cheaper. But here, it's not. Now, wouldn't you think if they made the same price similar for everyone, more people might use it? That's what draws people, is that they know how to give back, but still make everyone happy. And those are probably some things Amazon and Uber can possibly think about doing, just to make the world go round more and make consumers happy.